Would you seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyam Sundar Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal Gaurita, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees? So we want to continue with our series on Sanatan Dharma. And today we wanted to talk about Jiva. Who are we? We talked about the various Vedic scriptures, and then we talked about Ishwar, who is God. And now we wanted to focus in on who are we. Very important, because if we don't understand who we are, then what chance have we got to understand who is the Supreme, what is our business in this world? Why are we here suffering? Because this is a place of misery. There's no happiness in this world. And if there is any happiness, it's very flickering. It will come and go very quickly. But what is permanent is change. We keep change, all the time changing. So let's understand who we are, what is our purpose of existence, and what is our duties in life? What are we meant to do? So let's look at chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. Because Krishna explains in some detail who we are. In fact, this is the very first instruction that Krishna gives to Arjuna. Who are you? And that's why it's so important to understand who we are, because Krishna himself has put this as on top of his list of priorities to explain to Arjuna. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. Then Krishna just dives straight into it. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So Arjun, you're talking about killing your relatives, but you don't know what you're talking about. Did you not know there was never a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be? What's your problem, Arjun? So Krishna is immediately chastising his disciple and putting him on the transcendental platform, the platform of the jiva at least. And then he explains, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth through old age, the soul similarly passes on into another body at death. Oh, a sober person is not bewildered by such thing. So Krishna is implying to Arjuna, you're not very sober, you're not very intelligent. Can't you understand? Your body has changed. When you were a baby, Arjun, you didn't have this body that you have now. You had a baby body. Your body is different, but you are still the same. The soul continually passes from boyhood to youth to old age. So in the same way, this soul continues. After it leaves this body, where does it go? Into another body. And you should not be bewildered by such a change. So Krishna is really giving him gyan, very important gyan, right from the outset. And this is really interesting. This is from the book Coming Back. It's a front cover. Somebody's just exiting, and then they're entering. We exit when our bodies are useless, cannot function properly, and is no longer suitable to carry the soul. So the body leaves, and then we get another body, young, start again. O Sanakanti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance, indeed, of course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, Ocean of Bharat. One must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So why are you worried, Arjun? Yes, you might lose the war. You might win the war. But don't you know happiness and distress, just like how winter and summer come, They come and they go, come and they go, come and they go. It's all about your perception. But you must remain steady, whether you're winning or you're losing. That is all connected to the body, because the soul is spiritual. It's not connected to any gain or loss that you get in this world. So remain steady, learn to tolerate. Oh, best of among men, Arjun, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. But Arjun, at the moment, Krishna is saying to him, you are disturbed unnecessarily. You're acting like a worldly man. It's not becoming of your lineage. Text 16, those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. And your family, your tradition, they are seers of this truth. Where have you gone wrong, Arjun? So Krishna's got so many different implications within the verses that he's speaking to Arjun. He's chastising him, severely chastising him. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. You have such a big ego, Arjun. You're thinking that you are going to be the destruction of the Kauravas, but you're not. None of them will die because the soul is eternal. So you can't destroy the soul. And this is a really interesting picture, because it shows the transition in this life that the body undertakes just in this one life. And then it continues, and it's a cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. And we're stuck in this cycle.
Prabhuji?
Yes, anyway.
Just a question. I know that photograph, the one they have just shown, is quite famous one. But it means that what is implies that we are going to take rebirth again as a human being, but that does not always happen, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. Not always. In fact, it's quite rare to have a human birth. So you're absolutely spot on. There are other pictures which show the other different species of lives that one can enter. That's correct. That's correct. You're spot on. Spot on. Yes, absolutely agree with what you just said. So this is not a given that we will continue in human life. It all depends on our karma, our desires, and our consciousness. If our consciousness is that of an animal, then we will not take birth as a human being. We will be in the form of some animal. You're absolutely spot on. Yes. Thank you, Naniman.
Thank you.
The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Mars. So you don't want to fight, Arjun. But don't you understand the body is going to finish at some point? And if you don't fight, you are neglecting your duty. So then he talks about this duty in the next series of verses. Not immediately after verse 31, he then describes his duty. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. So Arjuna, you're talking like a learned man, because in the first chapter, Arjuna gave many reasons why this fight should not continue. He was talking like a learned man. So Krishna's again chastising him. You're not in knowledge. You're talking, but you haven't got the knowledge. You're talking without understanding. And this is what the whole world more or less is guilty of. So much there's so much propaganda out there, about, and it's all connected to the body. It's all connected to something that is impermanent. So, society is being misled, people are being misled because the leaders and those who are, in charge don't understand who they are themselves. How can they help others? They don't know who they are themselves. Because for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, he does not come into being, will not come into being. See, Krishna is really giving it to him slide by slide. He's explaining it to him in such fascinating detail. These verses are just phenomenal verses. They're small verses, but the detail Krishna gives, and only Krishna can do this, right? Because he's summarizing the whole Vedic philosophy. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So Krishna is now really giving Arjun Divya Gyan. Yes, Prabhupada? You might be muted, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji and all the devotees. Two questions. One is imperishable soul. What does it mean? And the second one you said he's not in the slain when the body is slain. So what is slain? Please.
So perishable means something which will go off, like the apple. After a few days, your apple will become decay. It'll go bad. So what Krishna is saying, the soul will never go bad. It remains imperishable. So it will never die. That's what Krishna is saying.
It never die.
So then that's that bit. And then what was the other bit you said?
Body is slain. He's
the
not
body is
slain
slain.
when the body is slain. He's
So,
unborn, internal, very exciting. Primeval, he's not slain when the body is slain.
so when the body dies, the soul does not die. That's what Krishna is saying.
Okay.
The soul continues. The body will finish. Just like the driver in the car will finish, right? The car will at some point become old and it'll be scrapped. But the driver, he doesn't get scrapped with the car, right? The driver continues afterwards. So the car, we know it's got a shelf life. It will finish in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So when the car is finished, the car is then taken to the scrapyard and, they basically take it apart. But the driver continues. The driver will buy another car and continue his journey. So in the same way, the body, when it dies, doesn't mean the soul dies. The soul continues on its journey. The body is simply made up of 5 material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So the body, even now, is not alive. Just like the car cannot move without the body, without the driver, we can't move without the soul. The soul makes us look alive. But this body is already dead. It's only consisting of earth, water, fire, air, ether. So it's important to understand the body, even now, is just dead matter. Only the soul, because it's in the body, it's giving it life. Does that make sense, Pravin?
Yes, much sense. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Text 21. How can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, immutable, kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So again, Krishna is giving Arjun a little bit of a telling off. You're speaking words which you think are intelligent, but actually you don't know anything. As a person, don't you know, as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones. The soul similarly accepts new bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So this is a fantastic example Krishna gives. So like our clothes, when they get old and are no longer useful, we chuck them out and we get new ones. So the soul also, when this body gets useless, it's finished, the soul gets another body. And it's good because when we got old clothes, you know, you worn them for years and years and years, and you know, you get rid of them and because they're torn, and you put on new and you feel good. So in the same way, the soul, you know, in the old body, it becomes lethargic or so-called lethargic, right? And can't do anything. You know, it can't. It's just become totally useless. So then the opportunity for a new body is great news. You start afresh again. Naniben, there you go. This is the
Yes,
picture I was talking about.
this is a better example.
Yeah. This is a good one. So, so this is the coming to death and then given new life. And then it can be any form. It can be plant, it can be reptiles, you know, animals, monkeys, human, who knows?
Hello,
Okay.
Prabhuji. Shall I ask you one question?
Yes, please.
How long does it take? Like we change the clothes straight away. How long?
How long can that process take?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it just depends. Sometimes it can be quick. If we perhaps die a natural death, the body is already set up. So it can be quick. The Garud Puran has a lot of information about what happens to the soul. If the soul has been particularly sinful, then it may go on quite a challenging journey before it gets its new body. But if the soul has been pretty, you know, pious, it's behaved well, then the transition to the next body is fairly quick. It can be very, very fast, actually, because the body is already ready for them. You know, the mother and father has already been established. If somebody dies suddenly in an accident or commits suicide, then it might be that that person for sometimes gets nobody and becomes like a ghost, you know. He's carried by the mind, intelligence, and ego, and has no body to go to. So the body is being formed. So if somebody dies suddenly, it might take some time. If somebody dies naturally and is pious, it'll be pretty quick transition. If somebody dies who has been very sinful, then there will be a little bit different route for them to first absorb themselves from the sins. Does that make sense, Madhuban?
Yes, thanks.
No. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for asking. So the soul, again, Krishna is now giving more information to Arjuna because he can see Arjuna is still a little bewildered. You know, this soul, what's his nature? Well, it can never be cut to pieces by any weapon. It can't be burned by fire. It can't be moistened by water, not withered by the wind. This individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble. And insoluble means it cannot be drowned, for example. He lives eternally, you know, intact, can neither be burned nor dried. He's everlasting. He's present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, eternally the same. So Krishna is really laying it out very clearly. Anybody who reads these texts with some conviction, some intelligence, can easily, quickly understand the nature of the soul. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament. Well, Arjun, if you're thinking that people will come and go, they will die and they will be born again, oh, what's the problem? You still got nothing to worry about. If they die, they'll get a new body. They'll get new life. At the moment, they've all got old bodies. So Krishna's here being a little flippant with Arjun. He's saying, okay, look, you don't believe me? So what? So what? Does it matter? They've got old bodies now. If you think that they will die and get new, born again, well, let them be born with a new body. Why not? So Krishna's sort of playing devil's advocate to Arjun there. But then he goes back to the point. One who has taken his birth is sure to die. And after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So if somebody is born, they will die. If somebody's died, they will be born again. So this is samsara, which is what we're stuck in. Birth and death, birth and death.
Shall I ask you one
Yes,
question?
yes, yes,
please?
yes, yes, please.
So what's the hell and we say swag and knock, and so how is it possible? We said if it's take born straight away or takes time, in between there goes in hell or
It just
is it?
depends. Yeah, it just depends on the karma of the living entity. Generally speaking, if one is well behaved and does their duty in life, the transition is smooth. But if somebody's particularly bad, say they killed somebody, they murdered somebody, for example. See, if they just ordinarily took a birth somewhere, they would have to suffer a lot. But if they're taken to hell for a short period of time, then that punishment is fast. It's quite heavy punishment, but it will, rather than suffering for a very long period of time, they'll suffer a short period of time, but it's intense suffering. Really intense suffering. So this is why it's very, very complex. And Krishna says to Arjun, don't even try to understand how karma works. Don't even bother. It's too complex. So even when we are trying to analyze, what is going to happen to this person or that person, we shouldn't even bother because it's just too hard. And it's not our business anyway. It's none of our business. It's the business of that living entity and his karma, his relationship with God. So in many ways, I wouldn't even bother worrying about what will happen to a certain person. Will they go to hell? Will they go to heaven? We don't know because we don't know what the internal mood of that person is. We don't know. We may see some activities, but that's not always accurate. What we see sometimes can be very misleading. So I'll carry on. All living beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? I love this one, 29. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. Some hear of him as amazing. While others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So Krishna here is challenging Arjun. Which category do you fit into now, Arjun? I've given you, nearly 20 verses. I've given you an explanation of the soul. Where do you sit? When you look at the soul, do you think is him as amazing? When I'm describing him, are you thinking him as amazing? When you hear of this, when you look at the soul, is he amazing to you? Oh, do you not understand what I've said to you? And then he finishes it off by this comment. O descendant of Bharat, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you not need grieve for any living being. So this is his conclusion. He's just giving it to him straight. The soul will never die. Mhm. So, wow, what's all this? Let me just... So this is like a summary of what we just talked about, right? Krishna begins by teaching the Arjuna the most fundamental understanding of spiritual life. As the driver operates a car, or as the bird lives in a cage, we, the spirit soul, are similarly utilizing this body. Although living within the body, we are simultaneously different from it, temporarily operating it to perform activities, fulfill our desires, and interact with the world around us. So the lesson to learn from this is at every moment our bodies are changing. We do not have the same body that we did when we were children, but we still remain the same person. What is it that is not changing? It is important to realize our true identity as spirit soul. If we don't, then we will continuously undergo the process of reincarnation. We'll stay in this world. Simple as that. We'll be going nowhere. We'll just be sometimes a plant, sometimes an animal, sometimes a human, accepting unnatural material bodies, just like a fish taken out of water struggles. So we, out of the spiritual world, are struggling in this material world. We are accepting these unnatural material bodies. Why unnatural? Because our nature is eternal living beings, but we are accepting these bodies as our self. But it can't be, because the body will die. And the subsequent sufferings and distress of life in this world. So one lesson to learn from this is every day when we are perhaps brushing our teeth in the morning in front of the mirror, we can say to ourselves, I am not this body. I am pure spirit soul, servant of the Supreme Lord. This is very important. Every day to preach to our mind who we are. I am not this body. I am the spirit soul connected to Krishna. Eventually, the mind will believe it. Eventually, it'll take time. This is one of my favorite pictures. I always show this to the kids at school. And it shows how the soul is moving in this life through so many different bodies. So why is it a surprise that after it leaves this body, it enters into another body? Because the soul is eternal. It's staying through this life through so many bodies. So it will continue afterwards. Krishna then, well, there are a series of characteristics of the soul. Eternal, changeless, indestructible. Krishna has given all of this. Imperishable, immeasurable. Neither the slayer nor slain. No birth nor death. Does not come into being. Has not come into, does not come into, will not come into being. Is unborn, everlasting, primeval, immutable. And it cannot be cut into pieces, can't be burned by fire, moistened by water, withered by the wind, unbreakable, insoluble, neither burned nor dried, everlasting, present everywhere. What do we mean, present everywhere? Actually, this means he's aware of this body. He's aware of his surroundings. So the soul living in this body is aware of the pain and the pleasures of the body. Right? Unchangeable, immovable, eternally the same, invisible, inconceivable, amazing. And sometimes, this is a cycle of life. Sometimes plant life, butterfly life, animal life, fish life, who knows? Human life. We are very lucky. We've hit the jackpot. We've taken human form of life. We are very fortunate. Can't waste it. What are what happens to the soul? If he's lusty, then might become a dog. If he eats anything and everything, might become a pig. But we want to aim towards a spiritual destination. We want to serve the Lord. We want to associate with the devotees. And then we will gain access to the spiritual world. Go back to where we belong. This is an interesting joke. Yeah, well, I didn't believe in reincarnation when I was your age either. Very interesting. So this gives a little idea of the soul. Very important to understand who we are. Why are we here? What are we meant to do? Any questions, any comments? Wow, time has flown by. Krishna. Okay, I think questions were already asked during the session, so thank you so much. Sanatan Dharma ki jai.